What's up, YouTube? It's your girl Kenzo for Life here, and today we're going to be talking about if Warzone is dead after the Season 4 disaster. Warzone Season 4 was supposed to be the big reset. Instead, it'll be remembered as the update that completely broke the game. And I'm not talking about a few little glitches or some overpowered weapon. I'm talking about a launch day meltdown where servers collapsed like a power grid in a heat wave, forcing the developers to start pulling fuses on core features just to keep the whole house from burning down. This wasn't just another bad patch, this was a disaster that has players seriously asking if Warzone is broken beyond repair. A new season of Warzone is supposed to be an event, right? It's a time for new energy, a new meta, and a reason to get the squad back together. But the launch of Season 4 at the end of May 2025 dropped a bomb of pure chaos on the community. All the promises of new content were instantly buried under a mountain of technical failures, so bad that it left players in total shock. For days, the game wasn't just buggy. For a lot of people, it was completely unplayable. The problems went way beyond the usual launch day hiccups. We saw server instability so bad, it didn't just cripple Warzone, but also caused downtime for Black Ops 6. It's like two skyscrapers sharing the same faulty foundation. When Warzone started to shake, Black Ops 6 began to wobble right alongside it. We saw developers make the wild decision to shut down multiple core gameplay features to prevent a total system meltdown. And while all this was happening, as players were trying to connect to a match, they got greeted with new in-your-face ads, which felt less like a business decision and more like a slap in the face. Today, we're going to break down the full extent of the Season 4 disaster. We'll get into the specific technical failures that caused the launch day chaos, look at the game-breaking bugs that have stuck around, and talk about the decisions that have just shattered the community's trust. And finally, we'll look at the hard data, the player count that suggests this isn't just a bad week for Warzone, but a potential turning point for the entire franchise. This is the story of how Season 4 pushed Warzone to the very edge. The first 48 hours of Warzone Season 4, to put it lightly, a catastrophe. The second the update went live, the game's engine didn't just sputter, it completely seized up. Players all over the world were hitting endless connection errors, getting stuck in server queues that led nowhere, and dealing with constant crashes. This wasn't a case of too many people logging on at once. This was a fundamental failure of the game's backbone. The instability was so severe, it revealed just how dangerously the games are linked. A problem in Warzone sent a shockwave through Black Ops 6, causing noticeable downtime. It proved the two are tied together, like conjoined twins. A critical injury to one sent the other into cardiac arrest. If you played both games, it felt like the entire Call of Duty universe was just offline. As the developers scrambled to put out the fires, they had to take some drastic steps. It was like watching a surgeon frantically amputating limbs to save the patient. In a series of stunning announcements, they confirmed they were temporarily shutting down key features. Ranked play was gone. Then, the ability to edit custom loadouts in the lobby was cut off. Even zombies in theater mode and Black Ops 6 were stripped of features as the devs tried to scrape together some kind of playable experience from the wreckage. This wasn't just an inconvenience, it felt like the game we knew was being taken apart piece by piece. For days, the very things that make Warzone what it is were just gone. The developers weren't just fixing bugs, they were temporarily performing emergency surgery, and we're all left watching wondering if the game would ever pull through. Even if you were one of the lucky ones who could get into a match after the initial server chaos, the experience was often a nightmare. The game was a shadow of its former self, filled with a fresh set of game-breaking bugs that made a fair fight pretty much impossible. And I'm not talking about small visual glitches here. These were deep flaws in the game's engine and code. One of the biggest complaints was the crippling lag and frame drops. It was like the game's projector was stuttering at the worst possible moment. Players with high-end PCs and the latest consoles reported that their game would completely freeze for seconds at a time. Usually right in the middle of a gunfight, you'd line up the perfect shot, the screen would lock into a static photograph, and by the time it caught up, you were watching your own kill cam. Another huge problem, and probably the most damaging, was a critical audio bug. In a game where hearing an enemy is as important as seeing them, this bug was like being forced to fight blindfolded. Players reported that core audio cues, especially enemy footsteps, were either completely gone or severely delayed. Enemies could sprint right up behind you without making a peep, turning every corner into a potential ambush. It just destroyed the competitive integrity of the game, stripping away a player's core senses and turning every fight into a roll of the dice. On top of all that, a ton of other issues popped up. Unpredictable rubber banding made movement a mess. Some lobbies would crash right before the match started, wasting everyone's time. It felt like every single part of the game was degraded. Season 4 didn't just fail to bring something new, it actively broke what was already there, leaving behind an unstable mess that felt more like an early alpha test than a billion-dollar game. Look, if you're still watching, it's probably because you felt this frustration yourself. My goal here is to cut through the corporate talk and tell you what's really going on with the games you love. So, if you appreciate this kind of honest breakdown, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It's the best way to stay in the loop as we keep tracking the state of Warzone and holding developers accountable. As if the technical disaster wasn't bad enough, the situation was made so much worse by a few decisions that the community saw as completely tone deaf. While players were battling unplayable servers, they logged in to find new intrusive ads shoved right into the weapon select menu. It was the digital equivalent of a house burning down while the owner is outside trying to sell you insurance. The timing wasn't just bad, it felt intentionally insulting. The optics were just awful. The game is on fire, but instead of putting all hands on deck to fix it, someone spent time figuring out new ways to ask for more money. It played right into the growing feeling that the publisher cares more about monetization than the actual player experience. The backlash online was immediate and fierce, with social media blowing up with players calling the move greedy and disrespectful. Making it all worse was the communication from the development team. The slow, vague updates felt like a ship's captain telling passengers that the ship is taking on water, but refusing to say how bad the leak is or when it might be fixed. Players were left in the dark for long stretches, wondering when or if core features like ranked play would ever come back. That silence didn't calm anyone. It just fueled the panic burning through what little trust was left between the devs and the community. A rough launch and lingering bugs are one thing, but the real proof of the damage is in the numbers, and the data paints a pretty grim picture. If the player base was already on a slow decline, the Season 4 launch was like hitting the accelerator and driving it straight off a cliff. This isn't just angry forum posts, it's a trend we can see in the data. Looking at the numbers from SteamDB, which tracks PC player counts, Warzone hit a record low after the Season 4 launch, dropping to just over 54,000 concurrent players. To give you some perspective, the game had a peak of over 223,000 concurrent players back in late 2022. That kind of drop isn't a slow leak. It's a gaping hole in the hull of the ship, and it's a sign that the problem is much bigger than just the PC platform. That larger trend is reflected in the overall sentiment around the Call of Duty franchise. The chatter from top streamers tells a similar story. When the game's most visible advocates start heading for the exits, it's like the canaries in the coal mine have stopped singing. It sends a powerful warning to everyone else that the air has become toxic. Many publicly announced that they were taking a break from the game, citing pure frustration with its state. The title of this video isn't just for clicks. For many players, the disaster of Season 4 was the moment Warzone truly felt like it was on life support. So, where does this leave us? Warzone Season 4 launched into a state of chaos, highlighted by the major server failures that sent shockwaves through multiple games and forced developers to perform emergency surgery on its features. This was followed by a storm of persistent game-breaking bugs, from crippling lag to silent footsteps, that undermined the entire experience. The situation was made even worse by tone-deaf monetization tactics and slow communication that destroyed player trust. The result is now visible in the data. A PC player base hitting record lows and a community that feels ignored. The developers are working on fixes, and some stability has returned since the initial launch. But a lot of damage has been done. The trust that was lost during the Season 4 launch isn't easy to win back. It leaves us with a huge question, not just for the developers, but for all of us. Is this the end of an era for one of the biggest games in the world? Or can Warzone be pulled back from the brink? Let me know what you think down in the comments. What's the worst bug you ran into this season? And are you still playing? And until next time, you guys, stay frosty.